Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. My fiancée vanished on a business trip, locked me out of her life, let her family treat me like trash, and came home smirking like I was supposed to beg for my place back. Here's how it happened. I'm Kellen Rigsby, Black, born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. The kind of man who keeps his word because he expects the same. I manage operations for a distribution company just outside the city, the unglamorous backbone work where everything is tracked: shipments, time cards, invoices, signatures. That mindset followed me home. I like receipts. I like clarity. I like peace. When I met Nyla Corbett, I thought peace finally had a name. Nyla was magnetic in a clean, controlled way. She wasn't loud. She didn't have to be. People leaned toward her like she had gravity. She worked in corporate travel procurement for a medical supplier, always talking about vendors and flight routes and stakeholders. She loved crisp outfits and polished nails and a certain kind of smile that made strangers assume she was right before she even spoke. When she told me she liked how steady I was, I believed her. Our first year together felt simple. Weekend breakfasts, long drives, museum dates, her head on my shoulder during movies she pretended not to like. She laughed at my habit of putting everything into lists: grocery, errands, bills, vacation ideas, and then she started making her own list too. She called it adulting with intention. I called it building something. The first time she said my husband one day, I didn't correct her. I held her hand tighter. When I proposed, it wasn't flashy. It was a quiet evening at Freedom Park, warm breeze, a ring box that almost slipped out of my hand because my palms were sweating. Nyla cried, but only a little, like she wanted to look elegant, even in emotion. She said yes, then immediately started talking about venues and colors and guest counts. I remember thinking, she's excited. She's dreaming. I didn't realize she was already practicing control. Her mother, Zelma Corbett, smiled at me like I was a temporary employee. Her father, Dion, was polite but distant. Nyla's cousin, Yvette, had a way of asking questions that weren't questions. So, you're comfortable providing? You've got savings like that. You're sure you can handle a woman with standards? They always said it with a laugh, like the sting was my imagination. Nyla never defended me. She just watched. I try not to take it personally. I told myself that families test new people. I told myself Nyla was caught in the middle. But every gathering became a small trial. If I spoke, I was too sensitive. If I stayed quiet, I was not confident. If I paid for dinner, I was showing off. If I didn't insist, I was cheap. Nyla would squeeze my knee under the table sometimes, not to comfort me, but to signal I should behave. The wedding planning turned into a slow grind. Deposits, contracts, schedules. The venue was in Charlotte, an airy space with tall windows and too many rules. The DJ contract was in my name because my credit was stronger. The catering deposit came from my account because Nyla said her money was tied up temporarily. She promised she'd reimburse me once her bonus hit. She said it casually, like my money was a bridge she could walk across whenever she needed. The first time I asked for a clear breakdown, what she was paying, what I was paying, she rolled her eyes and said, "Why are you turning love into a spreadsheet?" It was a sentence designed to shame me. I backed down because I didn't want to be that man, the one who counts pennies while planning forever. I didn't see that she wasn't asking for trust. She was asking for access without accountability. 2 months before the wedding, she started talking about a big business trip to Chicago, a vendor summit, mandatory attendance, a chance to impress executives. She repeated those words like a mantra: vendor summit, mandatory executives. She said it would be 4 nights. She'd be in meetings all day. She'd barely have time to breathe. I offered to pack her carry-on the way I usually did. Folded neat, chargers in a pouch, travel-size cologne. She told me not to. "I need you to respect my privacy while I'm gone," she said. She was sitting on our couch, shoes still on, scrolling through her phone like she was distracted. Her tone wasn't soft. It wasn't affectionate. It was managerial, like she was setting policy. I blinked, waiting for a smile, a wink, something that said she was joking. Nothing came. She looked up only long enough to confirm I heard her. then went back to her screen. Privacy from what? I asked. From you hovering, she said. From you checking in every hour. From you overthinking. I need to focus. I wasn't a hovering man. I checked in because I cared. But the way she said it made me sound like a problem she had to manage. She leaned closer, lowered her voice, and added, "If you love me, you'll give me space without making it a thing." It wasn't a request. It was a trap. Agree, or prove you don't love her. I nodded because I didn't want to fight before a trip. I told her I understood. I told her I trusted her. She kissed me once, quick and dry, then stood up and walked to the bedroom to finish packing. I watched her go, and a thin thread of worry slid into my chest. It wasn't jealousy. It was instinct, like a warehouse alarm that trips when something is off, even if you can't see smoke yet. The morning she left, she dressed like she was going somewhere she wanted to be seen. Clean blazer, sleek hair, perfume that lingered after she walked out. At the door she paused, hand on the knob, and said, "Don't blow my phone up." She said it with a little laugh, like I was already guilty. Then she walked away without looking back. When the door shut, the apartment went quiet in a way that felt personal. I waited an hour, then texted, "Safe flight. Love you." The message stayed delivered. No heart. No landed. Nothing. I told myself she was in the air. I forced myself to work. I moved pallets and managed schedules and pretended I wasn't checking my phone every few minutes. By lunchtime, she still hadn't replied. I sent another. Hope the summit starts smoothly. Delivered. Silence. That night, she posted a photo on social media. Chicago skyline through a hotel window, room service tray in the foreground, conference badge tossed like an accessory. The caption said, "Work mode." It looked curated, not tired. People commented on fire emojis and boss. I stared at the photo too long, then closed the app and tried to swallow the feeling creeping up my throat. I called once, straight to voicemail. On day 2, her mother called me. Zelma's voice was sweet on top and sharp underneath. "How is Nyla?" she asked, like it was my responsibility to monitor her. I told her Nyla was busy and hadn't really checked in. Zelma hummed. "Well, don't suffocate her," she said. "Nyla is focused. Men like you get insecure when women are ambitious. Men like you." As if I was a predictable problem. I asked Zelma what she meant. She laughed. "I'm saying respect her privacy." Then she hung up. I stood in the kitchen with my phone still pressed to my ear, feeling like I'd been slapped by someone wearing a smile. That night, I tried again. One text. "Just want to hear her voice. Call when you can." Delivered. No reply. I slept in fragments, waking up to silence. Day 3 was when the check-in started. Nyla's cousin Yvette texted me. "You good? You seem tense lately." A friend of Nyla's, Marnie, sent, "Hey, everything okay? Nyla said you've been stressed." Nyla hadn't spoken to me, but she had spoken about me. She had time to shape a story about me to other people while leaving me alone in the dark. I felt something cold settle in my gut. I tried to call again. Voicemail. I left no message because I could already hear her mocking voice. "You're doing too much." I opened my laptop, started working on the wedding budget, and realized I couldn't remember which vendor had the final payment due next. My notes were missing. I checked the drawer where Nyla usually stored wedding papers. Empty. She'd taken them. All the contracts, copies, and confirmations I'd organized gone. That's when the suffering shifted from emotional to practical. I wasn't just lonely. I was being erased from my own planning. I searched the apartment like I'd lost my keys. Nothing. I called the venue to request a copy of our contract. The coordinator said, apologetic, that Nyla had already requested that communications go through her moving forward. My name was still on the contract, but I was treated like a bystander. I asked the coordinator if there was a reason. She hesitated and said, "She said you've been overwhelmed, and it's best if she handles it." Overwhelmed. That was the word Nyla used when she wanted to make my boundaries sound like instability. I thanked the coordinator and hung up, my hands trembling. In the warehouse, if someone changed a process without notifying the team, it was a violation. At home, it was my life, and nobody cared. On day 4, Nyla posted again, a dimly lit restaurant table, 2 glasses, a candle. The caption, "Client dinner." No faces, but the angle was intimate, like the person across from her mattered. My chest tightened. I scrolled through the comments and saw a name I didn't recognize. Lachlan Briscoe. Writing, always a pleasure. Nyla liked the comment within minutes. She couldn't answer me, but she could like him. I click his profile. Black man, mid-30s, polished smile, consultant in his bio, photos with rented luxury energy. I felt foolish for looking, but my mind was building a pattern whether I wanted it to or not. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I stared at the ceiling and replayed every moment Nyla dismissed me. Every time she made me feel like love was something I had to earn by staying small. On day 5, I went to work on autopilot. My supervisor asked if I was okay. I lied and said yes. I moved through aisles of inventory, listening to the beeping forklifts and the steady rhythm of scanning devices. Those sounds usually calmed me. That day, they sounded like a countdown. When my lunch break came, I sat in my car and opened the bank app. The shared savings account we had for wedding expenses was lower than it should have been. At first, I thought I misread the balance. Then I saw a withdrawal, then another, both labeled as travel-related charges, but not from our usual cards. I checked the transaction details and realized Nyla had linked the shared account to a digital wallet. She had pulled money without asking. My throat went dry. I called the bank and confirmed the transfers were authorized from a device registered under her name. Authorized, like trust can be weaponized and still be authorized. That night, Nyla finally called. Not to apologize, not to explain. She called 11:48 p.m. and opened with, "Why did my mom tell me you sound upset?" Like my emotions were an inconvenience she heard about through someone else. I told her calmly that I hadn't heard from her, and I was worried. She sighed like I was exhausted. "I told you to respect my privacy," she said. "You're doing too much." I asked her about the withdrawals. There was a pause, then a small laugh. "Oh my God, Kellen," she said. "That's wedding money. It's for the wedding." "You withdrew it for Chicago," I said. "Chicago is work," she snapped. "And if I need to spend money to look professional, I will. You're supposed to support me." Support. The word she used when she wanted obedience. I asked why she hadn't told me. She said, "Because you turn everything into a debate." Then she ended the call with "Stop stressing me out," and hung up. That was the moment my grief turned into clarity. She was not confused. She was not overwhelmed. She was not accidentally neglectful. She was deliberate. She was punishing me for wanting respect. I sat in the dark living room and realized I had been trying to win a game where the rules changed whenever I got close to feeling safe. The next morning, I made a decision. If privacy was her requirement, I would meet it fully. When she returned to Charlotte, she came in with a suitcase and a posture that said she was still in control. She didn't run to me. She didn't touch me. She dropped her bag by the door and looked around like she was inspecting whether I'd kept the place worthy of her. "You've been acting strange," she said. "Don't start a fight." It was a warning, not a greeting. She walked to the kitchen, poured water, and didn't offer me any. I asked if the trip went well. She shrugged. "Productive," she said. Then she added, "And before you ask, no, you don't need details. Respect my privacy." She said it like a slogan she enjoyed. I looked at her face, so calm, so certain I'd accept whatever she handed me, and I felt a quiet snap inside. Not rage, not shouting, just the final click of a lock being turned. That night, I slept in the guest room. She didn't ask why. She didn't follow me. She didn't care. The next morning, she left early for work, and I stayed home because I'd taken a personal day. I sat at the table with my laptop, my notebook, and every receipt I could pull. I wasn't plotting revenge. I was doing what I did best, risk management. I made 3 columns. What was in my name, what was shared, and what I could remove without drama. The venue contract was in my name. The DJ contract was in my name. The photographer deposit was on my card. I started with calls. I spoke politely, calmly, like nothing was wrong. I asked about cancellation policies. I asked about transfer options. I asked about timelines. I didn't mention betrayal. I didn't mention engagement trouble. I simply said, life circumstances changed. The coordinators were professional. They emailed confirmations. I saved everyone. Next, I went to the bank in person. I moved my direct deposit to a new account. I removed my authorized access from the shared savings and requested that any future transfers require dual confirmation. The banker asked if everything was okay. I smiled and said I was reorganizing. It was true. I was reorganizing my life into something she could not siphon. When I walked out, the sunlight fell harsh and clean, like it was exposing a version of me I'd ignored. That afternoon, I started packing, but not like a dramatic exit. I packed like a man who wanted peace. I boxed her things neatly: shoes, toiletries, cosmetics, jewelry holders, labeling each box with a marker: bath, closet, desk. I didn't damage anything. I didn't hide anything. I just separated her from me. I placed the boxes along the hallway wall so they looked like a silent statement. This is not your home anymore. It is a place you will leave. When Nyla came home and saw the boxes, she froze for half a second. Only half. Then her expression hardened. "What is this?" she demanded. "Organization," I said. She laughed like I was trying to scare her. "You're not going anywhere," she said. "Stop being dramatic." She stepped around the boxes like they were clutter. Then she reached for her phone and started typing. Eyes narrowed. I knew she was summoning her audience. Her mother, her cousin, whoever would help her turn me into the villain. That's how she fought. Not with truth, but with chorus. I sat at the table, opened my laptop, and drafted a single email. Short, respectful, final. Since privacy is a requirement, I'm opting out of the marriage. I will not compete for basic respect. Your belongings are packed. I've arranged lease changes. We can coordinate pickup. I didn't insult her. I didn't accuse her. I didn't beg. I hit send. Then I closed the laptop like I was closing a file. Nyla read the email on her phone, even though she was standing 10 feet away. Her eyes flicked over the words, and her mouth curled. "You're bluffing," she said. "You can't handle a woman who knows her worth." "I'm not debating," I replied. Her face sharpened. "After everything I've done for you," she snapped. She said it with the confidence of someone who truly believed taking from me was doing something for me. Then she walked into the bedroom and slammed the door, not out of heartbreak, but out of fury that her leverage wasn't working. When she came out, she was already calling Zelma. I heard her say, "He's acting crazy." Zelma arrived the next evening, sweeping into the apartment like she owned it. Yvette came too, eyes bright with the thrill of conflict. Zelma didn't ask what happened. She declared it. "Kellen," she said, "you will not embarrass my daughter. You will not throw away a good woman because you're insecure." Insecure? That word again. I looked at Nyla. She stood behind her mother's shoulder with a cold little smile, letting them attack me like train guards. I didn't argue with them. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, "Her things are packed. She can take them today or tomorrow." Zelma scoffed. "You don't get to decide," she said. Yvette added, "This is why she needed privacy. You're controlling." Nyla didn't correct them. She let them believe whatever helped her. Then she said, with no emotion, "I'm not leaving." That was when I did the most powerful thing I'd done in months. I stopped trying to convince anyone. I had already filed paperwork with the leasing office to remove myself at the end of the month and confirm my transfer request at work. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need them to understand. I just needed to execute quietly. So I looked at Nyla and said, "Then I will." Her smile faltered for the first time. 2 days later, karma started moving without my help. Nyla's company called her into a meeting. She came home early, not tearful, angry. "They're questioning my travel expenses," she said, pacing like a trapped animal. "They're acting like I did something wrong." She didn't say, "I'm scared." She said, "They're disrespecting me," because to her, consequences were insults. She demanded I sit down and help her strategize like I was still her support staff. She explained, in pieces, that finance flagged duplicate charges, upgraded suite fees, and dinner receipts without client names. She said it was a misunderstanding. She said the vendor summit had informal networking. She said people were out to get her. But her story kept changing. When I asked one simple question, "Who was at the dinners?" she snapped, "Respect my privacy." Even now, with her job on the line, she wanted secrecy more than solutions. She called Lachlan Briscoe in front of me, voice sweet in a way I hadn't heard in months. "Can you vouch for me?" she asked. I heard him say something through the speaker that made her jaw clench. Then she said, "What do you mean you can't?" And her voice rose. She tried again, softer. He didn't budge. When she hung up, she stared at the wall like she couldn't understand how someone could refuse to protect her. The next day, her access badge stopped working. She came home furious, tossing her purse onto the couch. "They suspended me," she said like she'd been personally attacked. Zelma called within minutes, already convinced it was someone else's fault. "They're jealous of you," Zelma insisted. "They're threatened." Nyla nodded along, absorbing the comfort of a world where she was never accountable. Not once did she say, "I shouldn't have taken that money." The termination email arrived on a Friday morning. I wasn't home. I was at work, finalizing my transfer. Nyla called me, voice sharp and shaking. "They fired me," she said, "for falsified expense reporting." She said words like they were unfairly assigned to her. Then, without missing a beat, she said, "You have to fix this. You know people. You always know what to do." She still believed my steadiness existed for her benefit. I sat in my office, staring at the email from my company confirming my new role in Raleigh. My hands were calm. My voice was calm. "I'm not fixing anything," I told her. Silence stretched. Then she exploded. "So you're just going to let them ruin me?" she shouted. I almost laughed, not out of humor, but out of disbelief. She didn't care that she had been ruining me quietly for months. She only cared when the pain landed on her. I moved out the following week. I didn't announce it on social media. I didn't tell mutual friends to pick sides. I didn't give speeches. I simply packed my things and left the keys on the counter, exactly where the leasing office told me to. Nyla wasn't even there when I walked out. Later I heard she told people I ran because I couldn't handle her ambition. Zelma told anyone who would listen that I was weak. I didn't correct them. Raleigh felt like clean air. New apartment. New route to work. New mornings where my chest didn't tighten the moment I opened my eyes. The promotion came with higher pay and less chaos. I rebuilt my savings quietly. I started cooking again, real meals, not stress snacks. I stopped checking my phone for someone who enjoyed my silence more than my love. On a Tuesday evening, I took the engagement ring to the jeweler, sold it, and used the money to pay down a personal goal I'd postponed. Months later, I heard through a co-worker's cousin that Nyla was still blaming everyone else. Still no remorse. Still talking like she'd been wronged. But her life had shrunk, job gone, references complicated, interviews ending abruptly when they asked why she left. Meanwhile, my life expanded privately in the only way that mattered: peace, stability, and self-respect. She asked for privacy. I respected it completely, and in doing so, I finally gave myself the one thing she never offered me: a future that didn't require me to beg to be treated like a person. If you stay to the end, you understand the real win wasn't revenge, it was peace. Subscribe for more stories like this, because the next one is even colder and even more realistic. And if you want part 2 style breakdowns, how to spot control disguised as privacy, drop peace in the comments, and I'll hear as many as I can. The end.